What's up, everyone? This is Rob in the Abyss, and we are going into 1984. And as I stated earlier in other episodes, the 80s is jam-packed with music for me, and there's no way I can get to everything, even though I do have a stack to show you today. There will be some ones that I will just mention. And the same is on the film side. I have another stack of films, and I know you guys are making up your list, and people like Dan, you can't keep up, but I'm doing my best. Just write them down and get to them when you get to them. I do not have a couple movies that I will mention, only because, well, the first one's Terminator, and yeah, I do own it, but we all know it, we've all seen it, didn't make sense to show it and talk about it. The other one is Once Upon a Time in America, which I did a little bit about in my Epics episode a while back, so there was no need to revisit those. I'm going to start with another Linda Hamilton movie, though. It's called Children of the Corn. Also stars Peter Horton. It is a Stephen King film. Goes in line with his typical films. Horror, suspense, a little different. Kind of a cult classic for the early 80s. Next up is the legendary horror film A Nightmare on Elm Street, starring a young Johnny Depp. And we all know the story behind Nightmare on Elm Street, but this is starting to be the heyday of these kinds of films, so it was important to point this one out. Next we have a Criterion, an Emilio Estevez kind of obscure film. It's called Repo Man. Criterion has done a beautiful job with this digipack, and it's, like I said, it's another one of those 80s films that kind of flies under the radar that it's a must-see. All right, now I'm going to move on to my comedies. The first one I'm going to mention is Revenge of the Nerds, filmed at the University of Arizona. Goofy, but a classic in its own right, needed to be mentioned. Another one very similar to that is the legendary Police Academy. Steve Guttenberg, phenomenal. A young Kim Cattrall. This is a really fun film, and it's a great one to continue to revisit as I've gotten older. Next in line is the third year in a row of an Eddie Murphy film. First film, 48 Hours. Last year it was, or last episode for last year is Trading Places, and then the start of the run of the trilogy of Beverly Hills Cop. All three films, 48 Hours, Trading Places, Beverly Hills Cop, are great. But the chemistry with him and John Ashton and Judge Reinhold is really, really strong. And once again, Eddie Murphy just on fire in the 80s. And this is a continuation of that streak of just doing everything. His stand-ups, his movies, etc. All right, we're going to get away from comedy for a minute. We'll go back in a second because my runner-up is a comedy. But I want to talk about a couple other films that I have. Buckaroo Banzai, which kind of is, because of the movie Ready Player One, has kind of revamped its notoriety, and you start seeing this movie out and about a little bit more since Ready Player One. But an 80s classic, and worth seeing. And then I also wanted to show you another Brian De Palma film. As you guys know, I said it a million times, I'm a big fan. It's the movie Body Double, starring a young Melanie Griffith, kind of her start in the film, but I wanted to point this film out. It's kind of a fun film because it's a typical suspense, mystery type film, kind of keeps you on the edge of the seat while you're watching it, typical De Palma in the 80s. So if you haven't seen this one, try to find it. Okay, so that brings us to my runner-up. My runner-up is one of my favorite comedies of all time, for sure one of my favorite comedies of the 80s, and that is the legendary Bachelor Party. Of course, starring Tom Hanks, and, Adrian Zmed, who is more known, I think, for doing T.J. Hooker, the TV show, and then also doing Grease 2. But I really think he is so funny in this, and the way he plays off of Tom Hanks is just outstanding. It's a really funny movie. It's a lot of fun, and you really get to start to see the progression of the comedic side of Tom Hanks. It really is one of the best comedies of all time. Which brings me to my number one for 1984, and it's a no-brainer. Robert Redford, Kim Basinger, Robert Duvall, The Natural. One of the best baseball movies, one of the best sports movies. It's filmed well. It's a great story, and it's acted well, and it's just a classic film. So for 1984, my number one is The Natural. All right, on the music side, similar to the film side, there's a bunch to choose from. Mega hits in 84. One, Madonna's Like a Virgin. We talked about her yesterday, so just wanted to mention that. You also are starting to see the progression of bands like Metallica with their second album, Ride the Lightning. We'll get to them in future years. And then the Scorpions were really hot, and I haven't mentioned them in any of my videos yet. Coming off of Blackout in 82, Love It for Sting comes out in 84 and really propels them into one of those famous arena rock bands. The ones I want to show you from 84, I'll start with Prince's Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, I Will Die for You, Let's Go Crazy, the title track Purple Rain. And of course, this is the soundtrack to the film, and I really do like the movie Purple Rain as well. But this is a great Prince record. Another mega album in 84, Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. You have the title track, Dancing in the Dark, which has a young Courtney Cox in the video, No Surrender, I'm on Fire, Cover Me. This is really his best. And I used to make a joke about Bruce Springsteen saying he wouldn't have two great songs if he sang, what was the old hit? I can't even think of the damn hit anymore. But when he came out with this, it was Born to Run is the song. But when he came out with this, he really hit it out of the park. And this is just a complete album, song for song, and it's Bruce Springsteen's finest. A couple others I want to point out. Queen, The Works, of course, the monster hit Radio Gaga, I Want to Break Free, Hammer to Fall, several others. A really good album for 84. Another band that I have not mentioned yet, but this was just huge in 1984, and that's Van Halen's 1984. You have Jump, you have Panama, Hot for Teacher, I'll Wait. This is just a powerful rock album. And I know a lot of people will say it's Van Halen starting to use keyboards and they're going away from that heavy metal sound, but the keyboards just added a little bit more to their sound, and it really comes together here. This was David Lee Roth's last album with them for a long time. And of course the album cover with the baby angel smoking a cigarette is, just iconic. It's a great record, and Van Halen was, of course, a great band. A little bit of a twist here for an album that I really like. It's Survivor, Vital Signs. And, we know Eye of the Tiger, and we know Burning Heart. Those were songs made for Rocky III and Rocky IV. But I Can't Hold Back, High on You, The Search is Over, Broken Promises, First Night, and then this is a Rock Candy, which is a company that kind of remasters old music and puts them on CD. They added the song Moment of Truth, which was a song from Karate Kid, so you get that with this version on the as a bonus track. But this is a great pop rock record. It's just a great listen from start to finish. There's no filler. It is just a great, like I said, pop rock album. And if you have not heard Survivor beyond the famous songs, you need to check out this one because it is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my final three. Iron Maiden, Powerslave, Progression of Eddie. Powerslave is themed around pharaohs, Egypt, that kind of stuff. So the cover kind of goes with that. I know it's hard to see, but you'll see the clip on the head. And the reason I mention the clip on the head is details. I always talk about in class the small things. It's the little things you see in film, the little things you hear in music, you see in art, etc. And it's those details that separate people who are really successful from people who are not. So once again, you see Eddie evolving and kind of going with the cover of the album, but also you're seeing the little details that connect from one Eddie to the next. So, I mean, this is Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Powerslave, Back in the Village, and then, of course, the 13-minute and 30-plus second long Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, based on the short story poem, whatever you want to say, by Samuel Coleridge, which has a lot of quotes of the poem in the song as lyrics. It is unbelievable. That is an epic, epic, epic song on an epic record. 1984's Iron Maiden, Powerslave. Check it out. All right, to give you my final two, I'm going to go with Rush, Grace Under Pressure, another really, really strong Rush album. I wanted to show it to you because this was my first Rush album that I had purchased with my own money when I was 14 years old. I had seen the video for Distant Early Warning, made me go to the store and buy it, and the rest is Rush history for me. You have After Image, you have Red Sector A, you have The Enemy Within, which is part one of Fear, if you were paying attention to the last three Rush albums. You have Red Lenses, Kid Gloves. It ends with Between the Wheels, which became a live staple in several of their last tours. So, I mean, this is the way I talked about Combat Rock a couple episodes ago. This is really near and dear to my heart. I love this album. It's personally a favorite because it was one of my first, it was the first Rush album I ever purchased, and I just love it to death. And I would say it's probably a co-number one because of that reason. So the other number one, and you may have guessed it by my shirt, is Madness Keep Moving. Terrific, terrific, terrific record. This is coming off of the popularity of Our House and really starts to separate the music from that song and that hit to more of a true 80s Madness sound. The title track, Keep Moving. Michael Caine, which Michael Caine voice is used in the song. He worked with the band for that song. One of my favorite songs of all time, my favorite Madness song, One Better Day. And then you have The Sun and the Rain. You have The March of the Gherkins. You have Time for Tea. This is a fabulous, fabulous record. And that's why it's tied with number one with Rush, Grace Under Pressure. So this is another one that's not popular in the mainstream, but it's one you need to check out, listen to, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So that is it for 1984. I got Madness and Rush on the music side, and then The Natural, starring Robert Redford, on the film side. Once again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, go in there and leave me some comments, and we'll see you on Monday for 1985.